Sri Lankan cinema encompasses the Sri Lankan film industry. It is a fledgling industry that has struggled to find a footing since its inauguration in 1947 with Kadawunu Parandua, produced by S.M. Nayagam of Chitrakala Movie Tone. Sri Lankan films are usually made in Sinhala and Tamil, the dominant languages of the country.
During the first decade, most films were made in neighboring southern India and closely followed the conventions of Indian cinema. Studio shooting was the norm, with Indian-style sets erected in film studios. It is widely believed that Rakava, made in 1956 by pioneer director Lester James Parries, was the first Sinhala film to be shot completely out of studio. However, it was the film Gambada Sundari, starring Kingsley Jayasekara and Sheila Paris in 1950, which was the first film shot outside studios instead.
It was also the first Sri Lankan film where, like in Rakava, the dialogue was recorded on the spot. This was because the film was shot on 16mm using an auric on sound on film camera, which recorded the sound on the 16mm film optically, unlike in the case of where the sound was recorded on a Kinavox 35mm magnetic recorder. The film was later blown up to 35mm and was screened in Colombo in 1950.
Though Rakava was acclaimed by local and international critics, the film failed to find an audience in the country and was a box office failure. Films continued to follow formulaic storylines borrowed from India up through the early 1960s, despite such efforts as Sandasaya and Kurulubeda. In 1964, Lester James Parries again contributed to the development of Sri Lankan cinema with Gamparalaya, which was the first Sinhala film to feature no songs, and like Rakava, shot completely outside the studio.
The camera work of William Blake garnered massive praise for portraying Sinhalese culture in a realistic manner and was hailed by critics and audiences alike. The producer Anton Wickramasinghe was awarded the Silver Peacock at the New Delhi International Film Festival for Gamparalaya. Following this breakthrough, several artistic Sinhala films were made in the late 1960s, including Sath Samudura by Professor Siri Gunasinghe, supported by cinematography by Dr. D.B. Nihalsinghe.
During the 1970s, several talents came to the forefront, while commercial cinema continued to lift storylines and plots from Indian films. These include Dr. D.B. Nihalsinghe with Vailkatara, Sri Lanka's first film in CinemaScope widescreen in 1972, and Vasantha Obesekera, who followed up his well-received debut Vesgatho with a slew of successful films culminating with Palangjatiyo in 1979.
Another major director who stepped forward during this time is Dharmasena Pathiraja, who examined the tensions of city youth in such works as Bambaru Awith and Ahasgawa. Artist and poet Mahagama Sekera's sole film, Thunman Handia, is also an important film in Sri Lankan cinema, released in 1970. Sumitra Paries also struck out during the 1970s, and she made films until 2023, with work that looked at the conflicting roles of women in society. Her works include Gehenu Lamai, Sakman Malua, Vaishnavi, and Ganga Adara.
Over the next few decades, artists such as Tisa Abesekara, Chandran Rutnam, Dr. D.B. Nihalsinghe, Udayakantha Warnasurya, H.D. Premaratne, Ashoka Handagama, Prasanna Vitanaj, Vimukti Jayasundara, Anuma Rajakaruna, and Inoka Satyangani have attempted to breathe new life into the industry. Nihalsinghe was an accomplished cinematographer as well as an editor, so his films had an input that was special and brought a viewpoint to all of them, most of which focused on exploited women.
Prasanna Vitanaj's film, Purahanda Kaluwara, is widely considered one of the best movies made in Sri Lanka, as is Vimukti Jayasundara's Sulanga Enu Pinisa, which won the coveted Camera d'Or for Best First Film at the 2005 Cannes Film Festival. During the Sri Lankan Civil War, several films began to tackle gritty subjects such as family relationships, abortion, and the results of the conflict between the military and Tamil Tigers in the north. Director Asoka Handagama especially drawn criticism for pursuing such material in his work.
In the recent years, high-budget films like Aloka Udapadi, Abba, and Maharaja Gamunu, based on Sinhalese epic historical stories, have gained huge success. Furthermore, following the drastic impact on the film industry by the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, Adaraniya Prarthana has emerged as one of the highest-grossing films of 2022.
Sri Lankan Cinema. Highest grossing films in Sri Lankan cinema as of 2024. Gajaman 2023. Grossed amount is LKR 610 million and first 3D film in Sri Lankan cinema. Kadira Divyaraja 2023. Grossed amount is LKR 275 million. Dharma Yudaya 2017. Grossed amount is LKR 224 million. Abba 2008. Grossed amount is LKR 185 million. Based on the historical legend of King Pandukapaya of Anuradhapura. Surya Arana 2004. Grossed amount is LKR 120 million.